morning on Friday, the 22nd of November 2024. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia and therefore Coffee Time on West Coast Radio with me, Peter Gomez. And Coffee Time is brought to you in association with the USAP EEC and GAMFood Trading, Easy Financial Services, Global Properties, Wave, Bloombank Africa, TAF Africa Global, and the Gambia Experience.
Did you know service plots are now available at Baki? Welcome to Baki, TAF City's fourth residential estate.
Yes, service plots available at Baki with 3 years interest-free payment plan with a minimum deposit of only $94,000, and it will come with fence plot, water reticulation, electricity, solar street lights, and bituminized internal roads. Are you ready to build your dream home for yourself?
Call us now.
And coming up over the next 1 hour, an intolerable drain on time, productivity, and patience. An avowed Barrows supporter calls out the disruption to public life of his long motorcades in an open letter to the president. In another open letter, the Gambia's first Olympic Solidarity Scholarship recipient addresses both candidates in tomorrow's high-stakes election for president of the National Olympic Committee. Anger and frustration in Baku as a draft COP29 deal leaves key issues open. We'll hear from the Gambia's climate change minister at the talks. The president is upcountry, meeting farmers and touring farmlands. We'll be catching up with his spokesman. Plus, of course, today's newspaper front pages. Thanks for joining us.
Have you heard of Cash Up? Cash Up Gambia is a mobile wallet app that allows you to pay utility bills, buy mobile credit, and send up to $300 to anyone for absolutely free. With Cash Up, you don't even need to have a smartphone to receive cash sent to you. You could use the code via text to cash in at any Cash Up location in the Gambia at any time of the day or night. Hustle free. Forget long queues to buy cash power or looking for a mobile credit vendor or even lining up at the bank. Cash Up is here to make any transaction possible with the movement of a thumb from the comfort of your home or anywhere you are. Download Cash Up Gambia on Google Play Store or iOS today for absolutely free and enjoy the lowest fee in the Gambia. Cash Up. Fast, secure, mobile money.
We begin our press review with the Point newspaper. Government will construct 36 kilometers of road in Nyani Barrow promises. Divergent views enlighten gender discourse in LRR. APC to converge on Gambia for historic retreat. Kerewan residents call for salary increase for service personnel. DGCC calls on staff to maintain high professionalism in dealing with public. New appointments effected in civil service. And GCCI annual forum spotlights trade challenges in the Gambian economy. On to Foroya's page next. What residents of Sami and Nyani ask from President Barrow. Ex-CEO of KMC blames procurement unit for lapses. Usainu Bojang continues testimony in his murder trial. Gender strategy validated to boost women's participation in politics. High Court hears ex-police officers' $5 million case against IGP. And ICC issues warrants of arrest for Netanyahu, Gallant, and Al-Mazri. Next, a look at the Voices front cover. Environment Minister unveils Gambia's NDC2 at COP29. Mahdi says government's increased expenditure burdens ordinary Gambians. Alleged fraudster granted $2.5 million bail. D-League DG vows to fight trafficking and dealing in prohibited drugs. And mother testifies in son's criminal trial. And we end with the Standards Friday front cover. Gambia UK toast closer ties at King's birthday. Ex-KMC Deputy Mayor explains festive period honorarium. Government announces appointments and redeployments in civil service. D-League destroys confiscated drugs in Blaze. KMC launches project to improve waste management. Finance Minister addresses International Forum on Public Finance Management, and stakeholders assess impact of homegrown school feeding program. And that was your first look at the front pages of Friday's newspapers. Our thanks to The Standard, Foraya, The Point, and The Voice.
The American Chicken Festival 2024 is here. Join us for the second annual celebration of all things chicken on Saturday, November 23rd at Hyperlink Village, Palmer Junction, Bethel Harding Highway from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Hello, I am Chef Boja. I'm excited to return for the second annual Chicken Festival.
With over 40 international options from a diverse list of vendors. Music by DJ Wanjo, raffles, the variety show, and plenty of family-friendly fun.
From local to international, we got something for everyone.
Come see and taste the difference. Make it a date and don't be late.
It's Friday, the 22nd of November 2024. I am Peter Gomez, and this is Coffee Time on West Coast Radio. Good morning and welcome if you are just joining us. We're going to begin in the URR, the Upper River region of the Gambia, and we're going to speak to the government spokesman and Barrows advisor on diaspora matters, Mr. Ibrahim G. Sankare. The president, as you know, is on a 3-week Meet the People tour, which he began in the North Bank region on Monday. He's now in his home region, the URR, and with him is that presidential aide I like to call Sanks. Sanks, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you, Peter, and to all listeners.
How is life in the URR?
It's pretty good. I think it's a little bit cooler than... geographically, it's cooler than it is in the Comoros. The temperatures here sometimes are known to be very simmering, but for the past 2 nights I spent here is much milder compared to what we have in Serakunda and other places in the Gambia.
Lucky you, indeed. We are roasting here still. Thanks.
Yeah.
So the Meet the People tour began on Monday in the North Bank region, where farmers were not very happy with the groundnut crop this season. And while we were on the program on Tuesday, you heard me read a letter from the Secretary of the Farmers Union pleading with the president as to the price they are looking forward to this year. They were looking for something upwards of $40. I mean, what did the president promise by way of, the groundnut farm gate price this year?
Yes, Peter, because of a variety of reasons, or because of a number of reasons, the president ideally would have given them a price that they were expecting. Unfortunately, the groundnut season this year is going to be affected by a number of factors: geographical, agricultural, climatic. And because of that, he has pegged the price again at $38,000 per ton, just as in last year. I just hope with the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Demba Sabali, to actually give me an explanation as to why this year they couldn't increase the tonnage price. And then his explanation for the preliminary explanation is that if the president just yesterday uprooted some nuts himself, some groundnut plants, and then examined, and if you see normally, if you are familiar with the groundnut plant, if you uproot it normally in a fertile soil, you would see a number of nuts, hanging, but then most of the time what you see is 10, 15 nuts. That tells you that the yield generally across the country is not expected to be as good as it were last year. And that and a number of reasons would go to explain the price. So as of now, NARI, the National Agricultural Research Institute, and the Department of Agriculture have mounted an investigative team of experts and researchers that are going to dig into the facts and then tell people exactly why what happened. And this actually means that the price this year is going to be $38,000. However, compared to the sub-region, Dr. Sabali envisages and predicts that we may not see a significant difference with our neighbors. In fact, last year, we beat our closest neighbor, Senegal, by $9,000 per ton. So most Senegalese farmers were even pressured to come to Gambia and sell their nuts because of the higher bidding price of the Gambia Agriculture Department.
And if the price is the farm gate price is not going to be increased, has the president announced any mitigation efforts, measures rather?
Yeah, well, naturally, even without this, the president has been for the past years really kind to the farmers. Like I said, kind to himself because being the son of a farmer, he has never lost consciousness of his own upbringing. As a rural boy in Mankawankunda, he would go with his mom and father to farm. And he is well aware and remembers very well what they went through trying to sell their nuts. So obviously, fertilizer has been subsidized immensely to mitigate the difficulty the poor farmers go through. Seed nuts have also been provided at reasonable prices. And of course, at the beginning of the trade season, of the summer season, there are also pockets, of money giving pockets of people across the country, the farming community, in terms of help. I think that's a tradition in the Gambia. In the Gambia, the governments always would do that. So, and given that this year the yield is not good, one would also anticipate and expect that come next year, President Barrow would also extend his largesse to the farmers in anticipation of another rainy season.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the tour overall, what have been some of the highlights since he hit the North Bank region? He now finds himself in the URR. So what has happened in between?
Yeah, I think people who are close listeners to your program would realize that in the last 6 years, you have always dealt with water, you've dealt with electricity, and you've dealt with motorable roads. I think one of the things we continue to struggle with as a country is electricity, water, and roads. Just tomorrow, President Barrow is going to inaugurate a project in a village called Bolibanna. Bolibanna, for your information, is some 15 kilometers, after Koina, meaning it's the last village after Koina. Normally, people will say from Bara to Banjul, Katong to Koina. Koina is not actually the last village. The last village is Bolibanna, to the best of my geographical recollection. President Barrow, for the first time, is going to inaugurate a school project that is some 10 classroom blocks, for one-story building, classroom blocks, and also, 15 teachers' quarters and 10 toilets, teacher toilets. So, but still now in Bolibanna, despite this significant development in terms of the education of the children, we still have a road that is hardly accessible. So I anticipate and I presume that the ongoing road projects, these people of Bolibanna would also benefit from that. And then again, like the crop season and all that. And yesterday, President Barrow, even though wasn't scheduled for any walk yesterday, he decided to embark on his own mini tour of some very major farms in the northern bank of the southern region, where he visited Jar farms, which belongs to Jar Oil, the businessman, and one other village farmer called Hamidou Jallo. So Hamidou Jar and Hamidou Jallo were President Barrow's guests yesterday in their farms. And then again, in the case of Jar Oil, he's tried to cultivate vast acres of land for the first time. I don't know, I have heard them say they now have basmati rice, planted and harvested in the Gambia, and they're very happy thus far with their yields. Mr. Jallo, Hamidou Jallo, also has a vast farm. Again, President Barrow personally uprooted the plants and decorticated some nuts and even chewed them, and just to show the yield. And when you lift it from the ground, if you look at it, and if you are familiar with farming, you will realize that the yield is not impressive. So that has been a major highlight, that the yields that we are expected to bring a change in their lifestyles hasn't just been that. And again, I think the highlight, Dr. Sisi and I, you asked us last week in your studio, the significance of this program. President Barrow, given his rural background, like I said, is always conscious of his own beginnings. Like Paulo Freire, the Brazilian academic and psychologist, President Barrow doesn't talk to the people of the province. He talks with them. But Freire, when he began his pedagogy of the oppressed about the poverty in Brazil, he said as an academic, he began talking to the people, and they didn't understand him. Then he came to their level and he started talking with them. So President Barrows, when he's in the provinces, he doesn't talk to the provincial people, he talks with them. So that in that way he brings himself to their level. So if you talk to somebody, it's like you're giving him an instruction. If you talk with somebody, it means you are sharing knowledge. And that's what this program is all about. It's make the people talk. It's to share, to talk with people and know their problems.
All right. Thanks for your time. Listen, the president must be made to pay for the groundnuts he uprooted and ate without being given them by the farmer who planted them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they're they're more generous than that, Peter. So
Okay.
you have a nice weekend and a very pleasant day.
And yourself. That was Ibrahim Sankare, the Gambia government spokesman. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez live on West Coast Radio, 92.1 on FM, online at www.wcr.gm, and now on YouTube, courtesy of our sponsors.
Looking for an establishment where value for money and unrivaled services with admirable turnaround time is guaranteed? The Port of Banjul is the perfect place for you. A vital gateway for trade offering connections to numerous global destinations. With improved infrastructure combined with a flexible tariff, the Port of Banjul remains a vital node in maritime trade. Along with its dedicated workforce, efficient service delivery, technology-inspired innovation, and an impressive record in handling all type of cargo, the Port of Banjul is also widely acknowledged as one of the safest ports on the continent with no history of piracy. As a major player in the region's maritime trade, accounting for 90% of all imports and exports, we are more than just a transit point, but a vital cog in the global trade sphere. Come experience a hassle-free fast customs clearance inspired by our simplified trade documentation procedures, safe and efficient cargo and vessel handling. The Port of Banjul offers prompt, reliable and value for money service, and customer satisfaction is guaranteed.
It's Friday, the 22nd of November, 2024, and live on West Coast Radio, it's Coffee Time with me, Peter Gomez. Let's take you to Baku, where disputes are growing increasingly heated in the final hours before the UN Climate Change Conference is due to end. Financial pledges to poorer countries like ours to help them cut greenhouse gas emissions have been at the center of intense discussion. The Gambia and African countries as a bloc insistently demand that industrialized nations drastically increase aid, while the EU, US, and others refuse to offer specific sums. Mrs. Rohi John Manjang is the chief negotiator at the talks for the Gambia in her capacity as Minister for the Environment, Climate Change, and Natural Resources. Before heading to the Baku COP Conference Center, she gave her perspective on the deadlock.
Imagine the IPCC report, which is scientific, has clearly indicated and reported that for the past 50 years, the LDC received 69% of the total deaths that happens and are related to climate change. That alone, the Gambia itself, only going back to 2022, registered 11 deaths. And those are just what we can get in figure. How about the indirect deaths that are related to droughts, that are also related to flood incidents, and even heat? So all these things, because of our low scientific data available, we are not able to account for. But we will all evidently agree with me that we will have deaths that are indirectly related to climate impacts. So as we are affected and in the front line bearing the brunt, we need to position our voice and then stand strong together to make sure that the least and most vulnerable communities are also given the attention that it deserves. Whether we are into the Africa group or we are speaking as a bloc in terms of this, our group, or we are even within the UNFCCC member countries. That's the COP, the Conference of Parties. So it's important that with the LDC we stand strong, fully well understanding that we are bearing the brunt and having the least capacity in terms of responding. And our least capacity is all being driven by our vulnerability in terms of poverty, with climate change induced and also related matters will affect us all the more and shifting us away from our position, attaining our development goals. So we cannot do less but to support the agenda of the LDCs. But again, making sure that we also align as much as possible with the Africa group. It's just not easy. We are seeing some differences in terms of the main Africa position and the LDC. But these are political, which I think we should work to resolve. And I did mention this even before now, during our African Ministerial, Environment Ministerial session at this UN COP, that we need to look how best we can synchronize our voices and make sure that at least we are able to align our differences and become stronger to speak on behalf of Africa as one bloc, rather than just having LDC hear this. But then again, we will not allow those kinds of little bit of differences affect our position, especially for the Gambia, to support more the LDC position, which we are more inclined to for so many reasons, because of our vulnerability, because of our poverty level, and because of our also disadvantaged position in the entire globe, and also preference to the climate change situations. For the text and the updates, as we wrap up COP29, hopes are not been shattered. We are optimistic still after receiving the first text on all key subject matters. But as COP29 is more COP finance, and even though other subject matters have been discussed, gender, Article 6, the global goal on adaptation, mitigation, work plan, all these things are subject that are under discussion and that have been discussed. But again, this is a COP of finance, and the new collective quantified goal is the leading topic, critical understanding that finance is the driving force to all other to all the other teams. If you don't have finance, we will still be dragged back to pursuing the other subject matters. So therefore, it was important, and it is important that all of us put critical attention to the finance. And we have two core items in terms of the contributors and also the layers. For us, our layer, some may mention the inner layer, but again, is the core. The core layer is the provisional and the mobilization. Here we're saying it should be public funded. Of course, we understand the contributors or the polluters. They use the whatever linked to that pollution, being oil extractions and usage, and also coal or whatsoever it is, whatever industrialization. It was meant for public use and public purpose, and it was meant for public expenditures in a broader term. So therefore, why would we not have the public funds to also finance in fixing the problem again? Simple logic and simple mathematics and simple justification. So this is our position.
And that was the Gambia's Minister for the Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, Mrs. Rohi John Manjang, who's been very cooperative with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez, and not for the first time. She was equally accessible for both the Glasgow and Sharm el-Sheikh COPs. And from Baku, we head straight back home and to the National Assembly, where the lawmakers continue to scrutinize how the government intends to raise $52.9 billion through taxation, loans, and grants to use through public spending in 2025. We have a report by Sadio Sambu.
National Assembly members are seated at the Assembly House with one common denominator, the Gambia, putting aside their political affiliation to scrutinize and approve the 2025 budget, all bearing in mind that the life and livelihood of the city scenery depends on the outcome of this session, which is expected to end by Tuesday, 26th November. Key factor areas such as education, health, and agriculture are expected to get a huge chunk of the cake, but the public, especially the civil servants, are keen on the approval of the 30% salary increment promised by the finance minister. But one parliamentarian and also a youth activist, Honorable Lamin J. Sane of Brikama South, expressed concern over the term salary increment, saying he supports salary restructure and not salary increment. This is because he said the gap between income and the cost of living are two parallel lines.
Where the budget touches about 30% salary increment, even though I'm not a fan of salary increment, but I'm a fan of salary restructuring. How do we bridge the disparity gaps so that the average take home in the Gambia will be able to match with your cost of living? But if you look at our source of income and cost of living, there are huge disparity. Minimum take home should not be less than $15,000 in this country. But the country, if you look at the cost of living, is getting increasingly expensive. And in fact, globally, that's the situation. But how do we put it in such a way that people's cost of living is better? But it also talk about some allowances that have been touched. And that is why there's a significant jump from recurrent, that is the personal emolument. Like there's an increment of $1.5 billion. So actually, we need to ask the minister whether this is the 30% increment and the allowances that has been put for especially lowest cadre people in the budget. But that is also very important. If it is going to consume 1.5 billion, we need to know which indicators, and that's what we are going to inquire. And the other issue, how do we revive the economy? There is privatization to put into the productive sector, more especially agriculture. But you will be surprised. You have very limited, they are not even meeting the international treaty that we signed, what we call the Abuja Declaration, which is saying 10% of our GLF supposed to go to agriculture. But what has been allocated from GLF component is 2.49%, which is very, very low. So we have to be serious so that we put food on our table, because the NDP and a sector blueprint for agriculture is to provide self-food sufficiency. So how do we realize that without adequately supplying the sector? So these are some of the things that we are confronted in the budget and the collecting component.
When asked what else could be done to mitigate the high cost of living and to reduce the price tag of food commodities, Honorable Sane said the Gambia Revenue Authority, GRA, should stop the high tax.
GRA, of course, they are technicians. We expect there should be a strategic move to know that what GRA is going to collect is coming from revenue lines. And those ones need to be digitalized. Yes, they have, GRA has Asikuda Plus, Asikuda Wall, which is really helping them, and they are really working in the area of digitalization. If the entire revenue can be done in such a way. But if you put too much tax on the business, the end users are the citizens, me and you suffer. Because whatever you bring in this country, be it a service or goods, how much do you use to get those services or goods? That's your cost price. If it is taxed up to a certain level, there is no business guy who want to operate a business at a loss. Whatever you incur must be paid by the end users. So that is why they also put their profit on top. So that is making the cost of living expensive. So we have to look at that one too. If a country is tax-based, is always a problem.
Honorable Sane Foda said for the average Gambian thinking to have the budget reflecting on his or her life would be practically impossible, as the Gambia stands at a debt loan of 180 billion which needs to be paid.
But are we even serious investing into our productive sectors? Because you're taking this loan. The loan burden is about 118 billion. And currently, you are going in for domestic borrowing, and that's the worst component of it. But what is happening, you are going to float a treasury bill. Look at a smaller economy like Gambia. All the commercial banks in the sub-region are coming into Gambia. You may think, what are they getting in the Gambia? Because the economy is very small. But the government is the only player when you come to the industry. That is why what they do, they sell treasury bill. At the end of the year, people get their millions without doing anything. That is why if you go to the bank to take a loan to invest, the interest rates are high. Two, they demand collateral, title deeds of your compounds. If you fail, because what investment are you going to do? Maximize such profit, you pay them that sustain your business. It's not possible. So if you default, they sell your company, you become a destitute. And when the commercial banks actually need to fit in their corporate social responsibilities. So these are issues that we have to look at it critically. It's not easy.
Gambians will be hoping by the 26th of November, when lawmakers will be stepping out of the Assembly House, education, healthcare, agriculture and salary increment got the bigger share of the cake. But as it stands, with the huge debt hanging on every citizen, many will be shocked to know a huge chunk of the budget will go into settling loans. Sajo Sambo, Coffee Time, West Coast Radio.
And still on finance and economics, here's Esaba with our next story.
The annual Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry Forum, where leaders from across the private and public sectors gather to discuss and strategize on promoting sustainable economic growth in the Gambia, was on Thursday held at the Sadoda Keraba Jawara International Conference Center in Bijilo. This year's theme topped empowering local economies, strategies for growth and collaboration in the Gambia, emphasizes fostering a collaborative environment that empowers local businesses and enhances regional integration. Idrissa Masjob, president of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, spoke on the significance of the forum.
To tell you that what you are going to do today is significant. For us, the private sector space that we have today, there are lots of opportunities, but there are lots of constraints. And then we have the Minister of Trade present, the EU present with us. So I'm hoping that we can build partnership between business, the GCCI, and the community we want to help to do things differently. So use this forum so that at the end of the day, we can, in a way that is very concrete, go back to the government to talk about, for example, how do we leverage remittances for development?
In the absence of the Central Bank of the Gambia governor, his advisor, Lamin Mamadou Mane, stressed on the Gambia's high dependence on imports of goods and services, stating that it poses serious challenges to the fight against inflation and exchange rate stability. He further underlined CBG's efforts towards containing the challenge, but said the challenge can only be met by development at all levels, particularly the entrepreneurs.
When you export only 10% of your import requirements, it means there is a lot of demand on your currency because people want to import. So this challenge can only be met by development at all levels and by all of us, as the President has said, particularly the entrepreneurs. We have to see how we can increase domestic production of our commodities and also make efforts to penetrate the export markets. So trade and export expansion are key to sustainable economic transformation in our country.
As one of GCCI's partners, the forum was supported by the European Union delegation in the Gambia, represented by Lumana Kamashi. She reaffirmed the EU's commitment towards supporting economic development in the Gambia.
In this context, today's forum is a great platform for the private sector, the public sector, and development partners to network and explore insight and lessons from new business trends and opportunities. Increasing access to finance, enhancing regional trade, and promote public and private partnership. On behalf of the European Union, I would like to express our deep commitment to support the economic development of the Gambia.
Presiding over the opening of the forum, Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, Abdoulaye Jame, underscored the importance of regional integration and innovation and technology in boosting and empowering the local economy.
The ministry is therefore dedicated to ensuring that the Gambia has a strong voice in regional trade agreements and that our businesses can seize every opportunity to thrive and on regional and global stage. When we invest in regional integration partnership, we are investing in a more prosperous future for all of us. Let me also emphasize the need for us to promote innovation and the use of technology as a way of empowering our local economies, and by extension supporting our integration into the regional and global trading system.
The forum featured a series of panel discussions with esteemed speakers including experts, government officials, and representatives from major sectors covering critical topics. Reporting for West Coast Radio, I am Esaba.
And live on West Coast Radio, the program is Coffee Time with me, Peter Gomez.
Vietnam Wajako, Kamamana, Iwalan Bisi, Young Lamin Bas, Trust Bank, Lamin Branch. The Bip Nana, Upuru Mobile App, Trust Bank. Just a mobile app, the first smartphone, you don't download mobile app. The Tulkumaka, and we don't have any activities in bank. And I don't know what passport, you know, mobile app, and I don't passport, mobile app. And I credit to go in a mobile app baru credit toko unjari ria nawai ikalaga salary advance acha dengan pes kemudian ada cara dengan pes di mobile app yaitu ATM di mana ATM di banyak tempat untuk branches all over yaitu kekurangan salary advance di unjari lebih ilangin mah bank mah itu tahu is time is precious, time is money, bangga baca time is money. So salary advance unjari lebih bank don't apply to mobile app right. Double tap, utang belum bayar dulu, dia perlu nunggu ATM. Kalau ATM dia ada, bangun terpaksa. Pernah salah advance. Jangan kemana makan salah advance. Si mobile app ni sambil mobile app transfer.
Welcome back, and if you'd like to advertise on the program, get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi, 699-0107, 787-0107, or 924-2424. Now, former army officer and diplomat Sheriff Samsudeen Sarr is a huge fan of President Barrow, not only for the president's kind sponsorship of the publication of his latest book, Testimony of a Retired Gambian Military Officer and Diplomat. Yet Sam feels there's one thing he needs to call Barrow's attention to, and he's chosen to do so in an open letter to the president.
As a co-opted member of the APRC and part of its executive, I remain a devoted sympathizer of the NPP government and a well-wisher of President Adama Barrow. This sentiment stems not only from shared political aspirations, but also from personal experiences. Over the years, President Barrow has treated me with remarkable kindness and generosity. He graciously sponsored the publication of my latest book, Testimony of a Retired Gambian Military Officer and Diplomat, and at one point even considered appointing me to the Senegalo-Gambian Secretariat. Regrettably, that opportunity was derailed by opposition from former Senegalese President Macky Sall, who reportedly disapproved due to my candid critics of his administration. While this development was disappointing, I understood it as part of the broader political realities shaped by the Memorandum of Understanding between the APRC and NPP, a pact I actively supported ahead of the 2021 elections. This agreement laid the groundwork for collaboration and led to several of my colleagues being appointed to key government positions. With this context in mind, I now turn to the pressing issue at hand, an observation I feel compelled to share with the President, both as a concerned citizen and a political ally. Mr. President, allow me to respectfully draw your attention to a matter that warrants reconsideration. The practice of shutting down major highways, particularly during peak hours in urban centers to accommodate your motorcade, while intended to ensure your security and facilitate smooth travel, this approach often causes significant inconvenience to the public, with gridlocks that paralyze the daily routines of countless commuters. This elaborate procedure mobilizes the full spectrum of our security forces: the Gambia Armed Forces, the Gambia Police Force, the State Intelligence Service, immigration officials, and even the economic contingents. For what is often a brief commute, entire communities are subjected to long delays and mounting frustration. Historically, such stringent measures trace back to the aftermath of the 1981 coup attempt, during which late President Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara adopted heightened security protocols. These precautions, initially enforced by Senegalese intervention forces, were a reaction to the traumatic coup and the volatile climate it created. Yet, even after the Senegalese withdrew in 1989, Sir Dawda continued the practice, perhaps for the sense of security it provided, or the authority it projected. Ironically, the grand display of force he cultivated did little to shield him from the internal upheaval that ultimately unseated him in 1994. The lesson here is poignant. Excessive reliance on overt displays of power alienates the very people it is meant to reassure. In light of this, I urge a re-evaluation of current motorcade protocols. Could we explore less disruptive alternatives that balance the president's security with the public's convenience? A leaner approach will not only demonstrate sensitivity to the daily struggles of Gambians, but also cultivate goodwill and a sense of shared responsibility between the leadership and its people. The strength of a presidency is not measured by the number of roads cleared or sirens blared, but by the trust and connection it fosters with its citizens. Let us seize this opportunity to set a precedent of humility, accessibility, and practicality for the benefit of all Gambians. Former President Yahya Jammeh, who ousted Sadar Jawara in a dramatic 1994 coup, elevated the chaos of traffic disruption to an unprecedented level of spectacle. His motorcade rituals were not just about inconveniencing everyday drivers. They transformed Gambian highways into theoretical displays of military might. Troops swarmed the streets. Precious hours were wasted in gridlocks, and Jammeh paraded the nation's deadliest combat arsenals like a conqueror showcasing his spoils. Yet, for all his posturing, did those ostentatious shows of force save him when economic forces stood poised to unseat him in 2017? The answer definitely is no. Under President Adama Barrow, who assumed office in 2017, the population and the number of vehicles on our road have surged. Despite ongoing road expansions, the extended shutdowns of major highways for the presidential motorcade have become an intolerable drain on time, productivity, and patience. Worse still, this practice endangers lives by delaying critical emergency services like ambulances and fire trucks. The public outcry is growing, and even the president's staunchest allies are beginning to question the necessity of these excessive disruptions. The absurdity of these security measures is glaringly out of sync with the realities of our peaceful nation. There is no credible security threat to justify this drama. As someone who served as an infantry captain under Jawara and rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel under Jammeh, I have scrutinized this issue over decades. My conclusion is clear. These road closures serve no practical purpose and are counterproductive. They frustrate the public, erode goodwill towards the president, and tarnish the dignity of the office. I urge President Barrow to reconsider this practice. Shutting down roads for his motorcade sends the wrong message to the citizenry, one of unnecessary pomp and detachment from their daily struggles. The Gambia has never faced an existential threat warranting such measures. Instead, these protocols waste valuable human hours, disrupt commerce, and undermine public trust. Leadership is about connecting with the people, not alienating them through theoretical displays of power. It is possible that President Barrow's closest advisors hesitate to share the depth of public dissatisfaction with him, fearing it might jeopardize their positions. But this reluctance to confront reality is a dangerous trap that ensnared both Jawara and Jammeh in their later years, ultimately contributing to their political downfalls. History has shown us that leaders who lose touch with their people risk losing their mandate. So to His Excellency President Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and Security Forces, I offer this advice with the utmost respect. My intent is not to undermine your authority, but to provide constructive feedback for the betterment of our beloved nation. Let us dispense with outdated and counterproductive practices and instead focus on fostering trust and efficiency in governance. If my words offend, I apologize, but the truth must be told for the greater good of the Gambian people.
Indeed, and there you have it. Sheriff Samsudin Sarr addressing his friend and sponsor of his book, Testimony of a Retired Gambian Military Officer and Diplomat, President Adama Barrow, who gets to hear everything said about him, either directly from this program or through third parties. I'm sure he'll hear about your open letter, Sam. And we have another open letter, this one addressed to the two candidates vying for the soon-to-become vacant presidency of the Gambia National Olympic Committee, the GNOC. The post is currently held by Beatrice Allen, who isn't contesting, and hoping to replace her by Dudu Jallo, president of the Volleyball Association, and Mohamed Jagana, vice president of the Karate Association. The election takes place tomorrow, and one concerned Gambian who cannot vote in the election has addressed this open letter to the two men, which I will now read out. Letter from the United States to the GNOC presidential aspirants. Greetings from Columbia, the state capital of South Carolina, United States. I trust and hope this message reaches you in good spirits and with steadfast resolve. I have taken time from my busy schedule to share this message with you ahead of the much anticipated GNOC elective Congress. This Congress has the potential to reshape the future of Gambian sports and its athletes, and I feel compelled to extend these words of encouragement and reflection. As time waits for no one, I write to you while on an official assignment with a team of Gambian agricultural researchers and leaders from the National Agricultural Research Institute, or NARI. This mission, funded by American taxpayers through South Carolina State University, exemplifies a strategic collaboration invested in the Gambia, for the Gambia and for Gambian women farmers. The team from NARI are Dr. Demba B. Jallo, Director General, Dr. Lamin Diba, Director of Research, and Dr. Ismail Mbenga, Head of the Integrated Pest Management Directorate. Despite my commitments, I felt it was important to reach out to inspire and empower you ahead of the elections at the weekend. As a former Olympian, international athlete, and Olympic Solidarity Scholarship recipient, I know firsthand the transformative power of sports. Gambians in the diaspora, like many of us, continue to contribute to the development of our beloved homeland across all sectors. These contributions, often unacknowledged, are made with one goal: to ensure a brighter future for our country and its people. Indeed, charity begins at home, and now more than ever, Gambian sports need leadership that embodies this ethos. You are both vying for the GNOC presidency, armed with lofty ideas and ideals, which you articulated eloquently on West Coast Radio's Sports File program on Monday, November the 18th, 2024, which I had the privilege of listening attentively to and admired your presentations and was struck by your passion and vision for the future of Gambian sports. However, we all recognize that over the years, our sports development has often taken one step forward, only to fall several steps backwards. This stagnation stems from challenges such as governance, integrity, compliance, finance, accountability, inclusivity, partnerships, and succession planning, among others. How you, by Dudu Jallo and Mohamed Jagana, and your respective teams address these pressing issues will determine whether this elective Congress marks a new dawn of transformative and inclusive sports development or perpetuates the challenges that have hindered our progress. I trust that you are both men of integrity and character, and I am confident that you will uphold your promises. This election is not merely about the presidency, but about setting a precedent for unity and collaboration. Regardless of who wins on Saturday, I urge you both to set aside personal egos, perceived or real, and work together for the common good of Gambian sports. When the best minds and hearts of the Gambia unite, the country flourishes. This spirit of cooperation will be historic and a beacon of hope for the kind of transformation we all long for, not just in sports, but also in community and national development. Your experience, academic and professional credentials, and years of dedication to youth and sports development inspire hope. Do not let me down. Do not let the athletes down. Do not let the Gambia down. Together, let us strive for a better Gambia through sports and beyond. Team Gambia for a better Gambia. Yours in sports and development, Lamin E.M. Drame, PhD. First Gambian IOC Solidarity Scholarship recipient. I'm sure Jagana and Baidudu are both listening. And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. It's also the last for the week. So we are looking forward to a very quiet and resuscitating, if you like, weekend. Thank you for the pleasure of your company throughout the week. And we'll do it all over again from Monday, when my guest will be the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Emmanuel Daniel Juve. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye now.
Thank you.